Hello again, everybody. John D Healy here. Back to my podcast. It's good to talk. People know me because I produced this book for my friend John McGurn, and that's how it all started. You can get it on Amazon. It's also on audio. It does have a little adult content, so you may have to go to confessional after you read it. My sponsors are the Van Lines, a moving company here in New York City, and they've been around a long, long time. I do have a guest today, and I will introduce her in a minute. Some housekeeping little notes to do. The IBO told me to thank Adam Cardona from Elite Healers and Sports Massage for their after party on St. Paddy's Day. He gave a voucher for a complimentary massage on Park Avenue. The winner was Maureen Farrell. Well, congratulations to Maureen. I did talk on my last podcast about the Mayo Society and the brochure they produced and all of that, and I would want to add something to it. I hope they weren't offended by my remarks, but I did leave out Knock Shrine in Mayo, which is the Lourdes of Mayo. So anybody with religious beliefs, they go to Knock for cures and healing and all that. As a matter of fact, I was at the burial of one of the people that saw the Blessed Virgin at Knock, and that was John Curry. Actually, he was buried twice. I don't know why that was, but he's buried in St. Patrick's Old Church here in Manhattan. But let me move on swiftly now to my guest today. My guest today is Maura Clare. She's also known as the Smuggling Nun, and this is a product that she's produced, or is promoting, sorry. So welcome, Maura. Say hello to my guest.
Thank you. Greetings to everyone out there in podcast land.
Yes, tell us, Maura, where were you born and how did you get into, before you got smuggling the putching, what did you do?
Well, I was born in Fairfield, Connecticut. I spent most of my adult life out in Boulder, Colorado, though. And for many years, I produced a large international conference that was sort of a conference on everything conceivable. It included a wide variety of disciplines and characters.
Okay. Interesting. So we'll move on now to the Putching, the Smuggling Nun. Where is this Putching distilled?
It's distilled in Donaghadee in County Down. As you may know, we can't call it Irish Putching unless it's made in Ireland.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar with the Putching myself because I grew up in County Mayo, and Putching was illegal back in my day. But I was smuggling at the age of 6. I was only a 6-year-old boy when I was smuggling with the help of Mr. Tato, because my parents had a ballroom, and the ballroom wasn't allowed to sell alcohol. So I had to smuggle it in from the bar next door in the bottom of a Tato box, passing the uniform Garda. But enough about me, more about you. How does the Putching, before you import it, it's called the Smuggling Nun, how does it compare to, let's say, a vodka?
Oh, well, it's got a much more interesting flavor. Of course, vodka is produced to strip as much flavor out of it as possible. So Putching has a strength and flavor that really stands up in a cocktail. Mine is a premium Putching based on an early 20th century recipe from the Glens of Antrim, actually a famous recipe. And it just is so much more interesting. I would say that Putching has the complexity of gin, but it's not botanical.
You described it very well. Now, down the years, because I come from a bar, as a bar owner, bartender's background, like vodkas, flavored vodkas, like Absolutes, citrus and lemon and orange, and, they come and they go. Even Trump had a vodka, and at first it was kind of huge, and then it became a flop, and now it's only, I think, sold in Israel. It's not even available anymore on the American market. So the name, the Smuggling Nun, let's talk about that for a moment. The brand.
Happy to. So I first read about Putching when I was about 20 years old, still in Connecticut. We had a cousin who was a Franciscan nun from County Clare, and she knew that I was obsessed with this underground liquor, which of course was still illegal at the time. And she knew I was longing to try it. So when she was home in County Clare for a visit, she procured some and smuggled it back to the States in a holy water bottle for me. And so the brand is named after Sister Mary, the Smuggling Nun.
That's hence that I mentioned Knock Shrine earlier on in my podcast with you, because lots of people, like when they go to County Mayo and they go to visit the Knock Shrine, where the Blessed Virgin appeared to John Curry and a few more people buy the bottles there of the holy water, and they empty out the holy water and refill it with poteen, of course. So I can see a similarity there in why your nun, what's your cousin again, or your aunt?
She was a cousin.
Cousin. And speaking of that nun who wore the habit, were you ever tempted to become a nun yourself and put on the habit?
You know, I think going to parochial school, a lot of young girls had those thoughts, maybe around second or third grade, but they didn't continue beyond that.
I guess
maybe after I saw The Sound of Music.
Okay, maybe they had other thoughts. So, in terms of other aspects of poteen, from my knowledge as growing up as a young boy or a young kid in Mayo, was the medical benefits of poteen. On farms, it was used for massaging horses that had muscle problems. Two of my friends, John Scully and Phil McCarthy, they run greyhounds in Ireland. And I've overheard them, without listening too hard, that sometimes they use the poteen to massage the greyhounds so they run better. I don't know if they give it to them in a bowl to drink or not. Then again, if John Scully and Phil McCarthy were drinking the poteen, there mightn't be too much left. So have you heard of benefits like that?
I certainly have. I'm legally not allowed to claim any medical benefits from distilled spirit. However, I can say that I've heard all sorts of stories about poteen being used over the years, both internally and externally, on humans and farm animals. And my cousins in County Clare, I know, still keep some poteen. They specifically told me that sometimes a calf, when it's born, has trouble breathing, and they'll, give it a little shot of the crater, and that'll wake that calf right up.
And other friends of mine, the Murphys from Quinnish, I remember John Murphy, one of my good friends, and Michael Murphy's over here in New York. When they were growing up, their mother used to give it to them when they were babies. Well, they grew up very fast. When they were babies, for teething problems. Have you heard anything like that?
I've heard, in this country that sometimes mothers would put a little whiskey on their finger and rub it into the baby's gums. I think there are probably better options today to help relieve teething pain. Yeah.
Ironically enough, here in America, you see the signs up in bars like women aren't supposed to drink during pregnancy. And in Ireland, back before I was born, which is a long time ago, it was the complete opposite, where doctors recommend, say, for example, my mother recommend Guinness to her during pregnancy. Hence, she had a lot of Guinness when she was pregnant with me. I was told that when I was conceived, that she was still drinking Guinness, and she dropped me on the floor as a baby, and that gave me brain damage. After Sir gave my brain scientist guy back on to explain me that one. But what else can you tell us about the poteen? Where is it available, and how is it distributed?
Well, I'm still relatively new, and I am auditioning with some distributors in New York and beyond right now. I am working with Liberation Lifted distribution around the country, especially in terms of being able to ship. I am able to ship to 38 states, and I offer free shipping with a purchase of 2 bottles. And of course, it makes a great gift. And then I'm available in some liquor stores and restaurant bars in Connecticut and New York. And as I say, I am just working on expanding that distribution now too.
That's very, very interesting. I've also met Tim Tully a few months back, and he is on the same road as you, more or less, with an Irish whiskey called The Lost Irish. So you might meet him at a fork in the road. You never know.
I have met him. He's got a wonderful product.
He has a wonderful product indeed, yeah. But that's what I mean. There's a lot of new products coming out. But the brand, I had Tom Sanchez on here speaking about branding on a couple of podcasts, and we talked a lot about the importance of a good brand. The restaurant that I sold in Ireland was called Mother Hubbard's, and the brand was strong, and it featured in a lot of TV and radio and that. And when I sold it, the brand was most important. I mean, if it was called John's Greasy Spoon, it wouldn't have been as tasty as Mother Hubbard's restaurant. So let's get back a little bit more. Have you a website for the Smuggling Nun?
I do. The easiest way to access it is Smug Nun, SMUG Nun.com. And it also SmugglingNun.com will take you there.
Okay. And I met you at the IBO after party after we marched on St. Paddy's Day Parade. So you do events like that where you give out samples to people. I know you gave me a bottle, and I want to say thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
I'm working my way slowly through it. My guest today is Maura Clare, also known as the Smuggling Nun. Podcast is called It's Good to Talk, and it is indeed good to talk. And Putching is conducive to good conversation. Now, what else can we say about the Putching apart from all that we have said already?
Well, you were talking about the branding, and it's been interesting to see how the brand almost evolves on its own. When I initially thought of naming it Smuggling Nun after Sister Mary, it hadn't even occurred to me that the early development of distilled spirits, people always talk about it, the monks this, the monks that. And as I dug in, I learned that it was very much the purview of women to do distilling and brewing back in the day, and the nuns had been sort of written out of the history. So I love that piece of the brand that's been added. And I've also learned that the majority of alcohol purchases are made by women. So the fact that this brand, I like to think it transcends gender, but the fact that it points to the female side of things, I think is a nice thing too.
I totally agree with you, and you did mention monks there. Of course, Frangelica, I think, is made by monks. There's lots of wines made by monks. There's even one called the Fat Monk, which I have sampled myself. But getting back to a more thought about nuns in general, sometimes they get bad press. I like to give them good press. When the nuns in Ireland were in charge of hospitals and education, the hospitals were immaculately clean. We didn't have any viruses like COVID or Corona or whatever the hell. And the school system was better too, I think, when it was ran by the nuns. There was certainly no bullying or any nonsense like that. The nuns were strict and they were good with the education. And in the hospital field, I know my local hospital, if you went to visit somebody, you could smell the disinfectant half a mile away. So I must give a good shout out to the nuns. So Maura, what else can you say about your habit? You're the nun with a bad habit.
I knew when we were launching the brand that it would be important to have a face of the nun. And this was a real problem for me, trying to think about how I didn't want a real person as the face of the nun. And I wanted to shorten it to Smug Nun in some of the languaging. And I thought to myself, who is smug in a positive way? And it occurred to me the Mona Lisa. So we dressed the Mona Lisa up in a Franciscan habit. And I found out afterwards that Mona Lisa actually is an ancestor in the Fitzgerald family tree. And after her much older husband died, she became a nun. So there's been a lot of serendipity with this project.
I love it. I think it's great. I hope the Mona Lisa had a few nips herself, because she would have deserved it. Maybe it would have cheered her up a little bit, apart from her droll-looking face. So, speaking again, my name is John D Healy. I'm sponsored by Liffey Van Lines, and Liffey is a river in Dublin. But I always say when it comes to moving, let Liffey do the lifting. So Maura, it's been good to talk to you. Give us your contact information again, please.
Sure, you can reach me at Maura, Maura, at smugnun.com.
Okay, and if people want to buy it, they'll get the information there, and you said it's free shipping, and they should look out for it in local bars and in some liquor stores, I guess.
That's great. Yes, and on the website smugnun.com, we list all the places where it's available.
Oh, that's excellent, yeah. Okay, and I hope to bump into you again somewhere around the place. I know the last evening when you were giving samples out at the IBO after party, I saw people on the floor dancing with Zimmer frames. So I think it does have some medical benefits at least. Or I'm going to say goodbye for now.
Goodbye. Thank you so much, John.